The woman left the coat and never came back to pick it up. Time passed, days turned into months, and the coat remained there, hanging behind the door of Mrs. Lucia's small workshop. She saw that coat every day, but she hardly thought about it anymore. She only remembered that an unknown woman had appeared one afternoon, asked for a simple repair, and said she would return later. She never came back. Mrs. Lucia had been a seamstress for many years. A simple woman, hard-working, a firm evangelical in her faith. She believed in God with all her heart, but rejected anything related to images or saints. To her, that did not come from God. Her workshop was small, organized, and quiet. There she sewed, prayed, and lived life the way she had always believed was right. On a regular afternoon, her grandson Gabriel came to visit her. 22 years old, her only grandson, affectionate, always respectful to his grandmother. They talked a lot, reminisced about old stories, and laughed together. While Mrs. Lucia prepared lunch, Gabriel began to notice the objects in the house. That's when he saw the coat. He pulled it off the hanger, put it on, and realized that the coat was beautiful, elegant, and seemed to have been made for him. He asked whose it was. Mrs. Lucia explained that it belonged to a client who never came back to get it. Gabriel asked his grandmother to give him the coat as a gift. She replied that she couldn't. She said it wasn't hers and that she needed to keep it in case the owner showed up one day. Gabriel insisted a bit, but respected her decision. The day went on quietly. Gabriel spent the entire afternoon with his grandmother. In the evening, he said he was going out with friends. Mrs. Lucia didn't like those companions very much. She thought they weren't good influences, especially because they were Catholics. One of them even had a tattoo of the Virgin Mary on his arm, something that always bothered Mrs. Lucia. To her, that was wrong. God, in her view, was enough. When night fell, the weather changed. It started to rain, and the wind made the air colder. Gabriel took a shower, got dressed, and put on cologne. While preparing to go out, he thought about the coat again. His grandmother was in the shower. He went back to the workshop, took the coat secretly, and put it on. He didn't say anything. He thought it wouldn't be a problem. It was just for that night. Gabriel left the house without imagining what was about to happen. Mrs. Lucia, still in the bathroom, didn't notice anything unusual. The coat left the workshop for the first time since it had been forgotten there. Outside, the rain intensified, the night progressed, and everything seemed normal. But nothing was ordinary about that choice. That coat, kept for so long, was now taking a different path. Mrs. Lucia didn't know it yet, but her faith, her certainties, and her way of seeing the world were about to change. Something much greater was already in motion, even if no one noticed at that moment. Before I continue, I want to ask you something. Write the day and the city where you are listening to this testimony. This is very important because it helps me know how far my words are going. Also, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. Now let me continue from where I left off. Gabriel met his friends that night and went with them to the nightclub. The place was crowded, with loud music, people dancing, laughing, and talking. He was wearing the coat he had secretly taken from his grandmother. It was cold because of the rain, and the coat helped protect him. To him, it was just another ordinary night. Time passed quickly inside the nightclub. Gabriel was having fun, chatting, and not thinking about problems. At a certain moment, he noticed a strange atmosphere on the other side of the room. Some people started to argue. At first, it seemed insignificant, but soon the voices grew louder. Shoving began. Glasses fell to the floor, and the environment grew tense. The security guards tried to control the situation, but they couldn't. The chaos escalated very quickly. Tables were overturned, chairs fell, bottles broke. The music suddenly stopped. The nightclub was hastily closed, and everyone was forced to leave for the street. Outside, the situation got even worse. People continued to argue, shout, and push each other. No one really understood what was happening. Gabriel tried to move away with his friends, looking for a safer place. That's when, amidst the chaos, the gunfire began. The shots came suddenly. People ran in panic, trying to protect themselves. Gabriel ran along with his friends, but within seconds he felt a strong impact in his chest, very close to his heart. The coat tore at the moment of the gunfire. He lost strength, fell to the ground, and hit his head. He was unconscious. His friends panicked. Some were shouting. Others were trying to help. They struggled to lift Gabriel off the ground, put him in the car, and quickly headed to the hospital. During the trip, one of the friends called Carlos, Gabriel's father, and told him what had happened. Carlos was at Mrs. Lucia's house at that moment. When he received the call, he was left speechless. Mrs. Lucia heard the conversation and felt her heart tighten. Upon learning that her grandson had been shot, she fell into despair. The two immediately left for the hospital, not knowing if Gabriel was alive. When they arrived at the hospital, Gabriel had already been attended to by the medical team. He was stable but sedated due to the medications. He would need to spend the night under observation. Mrs. Lucia and Carlos waited in silence, anxious, not understanding how all of this had happened. Fear overwhelmed them both as they awaited answers that were yet to come. Mrs. Lucia and Carlos spent hours in the hospital without knowing what to think. The silence in the waiting room was heavy. The grandmother's heart raced, filled with fear and guilt. She remembered her grandson as a child, the prayers she said for him, and now she could only ask God to let him live. After some time, the doctor approached. His face was serious but calm. He explained that Gabriel was out of danger. He said that the injury had not hit any vital organs, and that, as a precaution, the young man would remain under observation during the night. Carlos breathed a sigh of relief. Mrs. Lucia felt her legs tremble and silently thanked God. The doctor then said something that caught their attention. He said that Gabriel had been very lucky. He mentioned that, based on the location of the shot, it should have been fatal. But something had prevented the bullet from reaching the heart. Mrs. Lucia raised her head, confused. The doctor explained that the coat Gabriel was wearing had absorbed the impact of the shot. The grandmother felt a chill. Coat? What coat? She knew exactly which one he was talking about. The doctor asked a nurse to bring the piece. Minutes later, the nurse returned, holding the torn coat, still stained. Mrs. Lucia recognized it immediately. It was the coat that had been forgotten in the workshop, the one she had denied to her grandson. She was in shock. She held the coat with trembling hands. She couldn't say a word. Carlos noticed his mother's state but didn't understand the reason. The doctor explained that the coat had a thicker lining than usual, which had helped reduce the force of the shot. Mrs. Lucia only listened. Her mind was far away. She was thinking about the unknown woman the time the coat was kept, and the request Gabriel made. Everything seemed to connect in a way she couldn't explain. The doctor ended the conversation and said that Gabriel needed to rest. Carlos decided to take his mother home. The grandson was fine, and there was nothing more to be done at that moment. On the way, Mrs. Lucia remained silent. She held the coat in her lap, looking at it as if she were seeing something new. Her heart was still racing, but now mixed with gratitude. Upon arriving home, Mrs. Lucia placed the coat on the living room table. She thanked God for her grandson's deliverance and went to bed. She slept little. Her mind wouldn't stop. Something inside her said that this story was not over yet. The coat seemed to carry a greater meaning, something she still couldn't comprehend. The next morning, when she woke up, Mrs. Lucia returned to the living room. The coat was still there. She took a deep breath and decided to fix it. If Mrs. ever showed up one day, it needed to be ready. She took thread, a needle, and began to examine the tear carefully, not imagining what she was about to find. Mrs. Lucia sat at the table with the coat in front of her. She took the scissors, the thread, and began to closely observe the tear left by the bullet. Something caught her attention, right at the beginning. The fabric seemed thicker than usual. That was not common. In all her years as a seamstress, she had never seen a coat like that. Carefully, Mrs. Lucia began to open the lining. She wanted to understand how that fabric had managed to absorb the impact of the shot. As she undid the stitches, she realized there was a second lining inside. A hidden fabric sewn with great care, almost impossible to notice. Her heart began to race. She continued to open it, stitch by stitch. The silence in the house was profound. At one point, her fingers touched something different between the fabrics. Mrs. Lucia stopped. She took a deep breath. Carefully, she put her hand inside the lining and pulled slowly. From there came a small folded paper and a small image. Upon seeing the image of the Virgin Mary, Mrs. Lucía was left speechless. It was simple, delicate, purposely kept there. She held the paper carefully and opened it slowly. The handwritten words were few but powerful. God never abandons. Mary cares in silence. Mrs. Lucía read the phrase more than once. Each word seemed to penetrate deep into her heart. In that moment, a memory came clearly to her mind. She remembered the unknown woman who had left the coat at the workshop. She remembered the serene gaze, the calm voice, and the way she had spoken before leaving. That woman had said exactly that phrase. Mrs. Lucía had never forgotten it, even without understanding the reason. Now everything made sense. The forgotten coat, the passing time, the grandson wearing the piece that night, the bullet hitting the chest but not the heart. Everything connected clearly. Mrs. Lucía felt the tears fall. For the first time, she did not try to reject what she felt. She did not try to question. She simply accepted. She knelt right there, holding the image of the Virgin Mary carefully. She cried silently, thanking for her grandson's deliverance. Her heart was light, unlike anything she had ever felt. Later that day, Gabriel came home with his father, still weak but alive. Mrs. Lucía welcomed him with a long, tight hug. Then, calmly, she showed her grandson what she had found inside the coat. Gabriel listened in silence, moved, looking at the image and the phrase. At that moment, both understood that the deliverance was not by chance. Something greater had cared for Gabriel quietly at the right time. Mrs. Lucía knew that her way of seeing faith would never be the same again. What she had once rejected, she now held with respect and gratitude in her heart. After that day, nothing was the same in Mrs. Lucía's life. She continued to be the same simple, hard-working woman, firm in her faith in God. But something inside her had changed. It was not confusion or doubt. It was understanding, a kind of peace she had never felt that way. The image of the Virgin Mary became a constant presence. First, Mrs. Lucía kept it in her bag, almost secretly. Then she started taking it everywhere, not out of habit, but out of gratitude. Every time she touched that small image, she remembered her grandson's deliverance and the silent care that protected him. Gabriel also changed. The impact of that night, the shot, the hospital, and the discovery in the coat made him see life differently. He knew he could have died. He knew it was not just luck. Seeing his grandmother, once so rigid, now respecting and defending something she had always rejected, he understood that something true had happened. Mrs. Lucía never criticized her grandson's friend's faith again. She never spoke against images or devotions. When someone commented on something about the Virgin Mary, she merely listened and respected. Sometimes she simply said that she had learned not to limit the way God acts. One day, Gabriel asked if she still expected the owner of the coat to return. Mrs. Lucía replied yes, but that she now understood that the woman had fulfilled what she needed to fulfill. The coat remained stored, repaired, clean, but now carried a story that would never be forgotten. Over time, Mrs. Lucía began to share her experience only with close people, not to convince anyone, but to witness. She always said that God never abandons, but that she learned that care can come in ways we do not understand at first. The image of the Virgin Mary never left her side. Mrs. Lucía carried it with respect, unafraid of others' judgment. That woman who once rejected it began to defend each person's right to live their faith with love and humility. Gabriel continued his life more aware, more grateful. The memory of the coat, the bullet, and the deliverance never left his mind. Every time he hugged his grandmother, he felt he had received a second chance, not just to live, but to change. The coat, the unknown woman, the simple phrase, and the image, kept in silence, changed an entire family. Mrs. Lucía learned that faith is not imposed, it is recognized, and that many times the strongest care is the one that arrives quietly at the exact moment to save a life. If you made it this far, I ask you to leave in the comments the phrase, "Protective Mother." So I will know that you also believe that the Virgin Mary always protects us. Don't forget to leave your like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications. May God and the Virgin Mary always protect you. Amen.